Oh, right. All right, guys. All right, here we go. So, um, the four agreements, pages. What do we have here? Page 95. We did 95. So we're 96, 97, 98 for those who are keeping up. All right, guys. So I have not at all forgotten about this book, but I have been kind of switching up my schedule. So because I haven't really been very often like at the beach, uh, because the weather did get a little hectic, so I wasn't really at the beach too much. Well, it wasn't hectic, it was just hot. And, I like to sit in the car when I record, and it's really uncomfortable sitting in the hot car, uh, even though I have AC and stuff. I try not to really be in the car like that, especially lately. Like lately, it's just not ideal. So my recordings, for that reason, have certainly slowed themselves down, and as a result, um, there are a lot of days that I'm not really following up with posting. So some of the smaller projects, like with the reading of these pages, I just haven't really gotten into it as much. Um, and I haven't really been labeling all my recordings all the time, which is a me problem, not an anybody else problem. But because I haven't really been labeling too often, uh, I've got to go back. I'm kind of backlogged right now, so it happens. It happens. I've just been busy, but otherwise, we're kind of getting a little back on track now. So, page 96, 97, 98, we're talking about this judge, the victim, the belief system, the programming. And if you recall, this uh, chapter 6 is the Toltec path to freedom, breaking old agreements. So if you remember, breaking old agreements is, based on the programming that we are given during our domestication, as we're being brought up and taught, you know, how to live. We get taught what other people were taught, and those other people who are teaching us what they've been taught. So, um, I like this quote at the bottom, towards the bottom of page 96. It says, "There is no need to blame your parents or anyone who abused you in your life, including yourself, but it is time to stop the abuse." And then it goes on to talk about, even when you watch kids, when they're pretending to be adults, their expressions kind of change, and you kind of notice how they kind of like act differently. But the author is going by this kind of mindset that, our authentic self is that original child. And the freedom that children have to express themselves is different than that of adults. And the more we get kind of like roped into all of these um, kind of judgments and victim mindsets, the more we're kind of less and less free and more bound to those agreements, right? And so breaking the old agreements, it isn't necessarily about placing blame. I do think, though, in my own experience, it is about being able to identify maybe areas or like things that led to something that might now be a trigger or led to some kind of negative mindset or led to some kind of just um, one thing leading to another, right? I think like some of the negative experiences and patterns that I grew up around, I didn't really notice that there was anything wrong too much. Like, I didn't notice there was anything wrong to a point that maybe I could go, like, tell another adult or tell a teacher or go, like, I wouldn't go out of my way to go, like, tell somebody what's going on. Because I just figured, it's maybe like an odd thing with my family or my household, but it's not like a big deal, even though I was unhappy with it and it wasn't maybe healthy. But, I didn't identify it as something where it's like, oh, I need to run away from home or, oh, I need to, get some other adult or authority involved in this. But also, the people that I know that were toxic were kind of involved with the adults in my life. So they were very close to the school, they were very close to the church. So I think when I started realizing that maybe something was up, that there were adults in my life um, that were doing things that weren't um, um, healthy, were when other adults would kind of ask questions, they get a little people would get a little curious about, like, oh, like, how do you get disciplined, or like if you do something wrong, like what does that look like, or like how do you feel around this person or that person. And I think that's when I started realizing, like, oh, like I've got some problematic people in my life that are doing some problematic things. And I started noticing that because when I would answer, I was just like, I'll answer honestly, and I would just kind of state my answer. And then when I stated it, I noticed that this other person was lying about it, and they'd be like, that never happened, or like that's not accurate, or like that never, we don't do that in our in our family or in our circle of friends, or like that's not accurate. And I was a kid, so it's like, why would I have had any reason to be lying about things? But yeah, once I saw that there were adults that were kind of like lying about those things, that's when I was kind of like, oh, they know that they did something wrong. That's why they're lying about it. And just because I'm younger, they think that, they can just like kind of slightly bully me out of, gaslight in a way to bully, to kind of um get me to like discredit me, to be like, oh, like that person, they're just a kid, they don't really know, like they don't really remember. um and I've had those people in my life, even up to a few years ago, kind of lying about stuff, and being like, oh, like making up stories basically. And I it was probably after a certain point where I realized that there were certain people that I knew that were adults that kind of would just like gaslight all the time and be lying about stuff. And it was like, I'm like, my memory is not that bad, like maybe it might be one sided, like maybe I can tell my side of the story, but for people to be like saying that like stuff like that never happened or that it never came up, that was like a flat out lie. And so once I kind of realized that, I was like, that's when I was kind of aware that like something's up, and just how I would feel around certain people, how I was like anxious and kind of like on on eggshells and just kind of didn't want to be around them as much as possible. And even to this day, I still kind of avoid them completely unless I absolutely either want to talk to them and have a desire to do so, or unless I feel like, okay, like I kind of want to chat. But yeah, otherwise, I'm usually just like to myself, you know. I'm not really making too many um you know I'm just not doing too many things to too many I'm not taking too many steps to kind of like allow these types of toxic people to really use their kind of methods of toxicity against me, like, because I know they're not going to change. They've got their own things going on to a point that they can't even manage that. Um, so when it comes back to this, the judge, we often judge ourselves, and that also creates this like freedom, this lack of freedom, because we're constantly like, okay, like I'm not living up to maybe how I was raised or how I was taught, and all these societal rules that we thought we were told, like this is how you wash your hands, this is how you brush your teeth, this is how often you shower, this is what kind of stuff you use, this is how you do your hair, this is what kind of stuff you're supposed to wear or not. This is what you're supposed to do with like your education or with your career, or not have a career, or not have a job, or not get an education. It kind of just depends what values we were raised around. We kind of start thinking that way. And so, the hard part about the mind is that, um, we can be both the judge and the victim at the same time. And, um, I guess one of the harder parts about that is that we don't quite, um, like, we don't quite always know how to deal with that. Um, but a lot of that comes from, you know, uh, that we limit ourselves. We limit the way that we challenge ourselves on a lot of these things, right? So, I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I would say, one thing that I've maybe realized is is you know a lot of times we're hesitant to challenge. We're hesitant to challenge things. Um, Now I have the kind of mindset, the kind of mind that does not mind challenging things, but I did kind of learn that there are people that I know in my social circles that do not like to sit and challenge stuff. It's too overwhelming. And I was like, oh, like I didn't know that that was really like a thing. I never understood why sometimes people were like not challenging things. Maybe didn't like reading books like The Four Agreements, or anything that has to do with like self help, or just like challenging ideas. Uh, some people just don't like that. And on the other hand, I would say that if there are areas where, as an individual, you realize your energy dips, or it kind of throws you through a spiral, or you find yourself unhappy and just kind of like, you know, um, just kind of like triggered, you know, I would say those are natural signs that, your mind and your body are trying to tell you something. Almost like when you don't sleep enough, your mind and body are going to let you know, right? Once you do actually wake up, you're not going to feel perfect. You're going to feel like you didn't sleep enough, usually, right? Especially if it keeps going on. After a couple days at least, you'll start feeling like, you know, I definitely need some caffeine or something to kind of pick me up. Um, you won't feel like, okay, I can just wake up and rock it today. You'll feel a little different, right? And same with you know, um same with like um how you'll feel around uh if you've been around someone who just doesn't make you feel good or doesn't uh help you to feel good, or makes you feel bad, you'll notice that, your mind will start being like, oh man, like you'll notice you don't want to be around this person. You don't feel happy when you're, trying to meet up. You're kind of more anxious. You're more like, oh, I have to go meet this person and kind of thinking like, I hope nothing goes wrong, because you already know this person's patterns of how they are. So I would say usually, those for people who don't really ever challenge things, those are probably, if people are at a place where they want to start changing things a lot, those are the places to maybe focus into and see like, hey, like I feel this way around this certain person or this certain boss or this certain situation, and just kind of challenging it. Why do I feel this way? You know, um, because whatever it is, you have a certain energy frequency and they have another energy frequency. And there's something about the way your energy frequency is and the way theirs is that makes it so that you feel uncomfortable. There might also be something about the way your energy frequency is that triggers a person to be toxic. So, it can work both ways. Like, you might be completely innocent and not provoking anybody, right? And then all of a sudden, when you're around somebody else, they might feel a sense of discomfort because of how calm you are, or how sensitive you are, or how vulnerable you can be. I've definitely noticed that people who have narcissistic traits do not like it when people are humble, when people are, kind of just comfortable in their own calmness. They need to steer, they need to they need to stir that up. They need to kind of, you know, throw a wrench in it. They really want to bring the energy frequency to their side of how they like chaos and drama and gaslighting and all that. So you'll notice that if you're a very calm person, you likely might attract a lot of people in your life that are not calm and that are dramatic and narcissistic and have those kind of issues. Or if you are the problematic person, if you kind of notice, people kind of don't seem to kind of come towards you. They, like, if you leave everything and just never, reach out to anybody for like months on end, are people reaching out to you like, hey, where you been? Like, hey, what's up? It's been a while. Um, it might be you. It might be you. It might be, you know, people aren't reaching out to you for some kind of reason. Um, who knows what that is? Um, um, I have a pretty bad habit of consuming a lot of caffeine, and then just like, when I'm doing tedious work, I get a little distracted, and then I start, you know, um, like texting people. And I can definitely overdo it, and I know that I can. But I think most people who know me, they know, it's not, if I'm texting you and it's just about like blah, 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 you really don't have to read it. So I notice if people aren't answering, then I'm probably bugging them. And I can kind of be like, all right, take a back seat, for a bit. But usually if I'm caffeinated, I don't catch it right away. I'm just like, my intention is just to say, hey, what's up? And then all of a sudden I need to say all these other things. So it's kind of like, but, I've got a friend who kind of like, I'll basically have to block them for most of the week, and then I'll keep it unblocked for like a day or two, just because like sometimes they're sending me 14, 15 messages a day, and I'm just like, I'm not going to read that. And so, like, even today, you know, I've received, um, I've received one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight messages from this person since almost 8 a.m. and it's a little after 10:30 a.m. now. So not even 3 hours. They've already sent 8 messages. Um, and before that, they sent like a whole bunch of other messages too. And so it's like, I kind of I have to, because otherwise it's like I start missing other messages, because I'm like, every time I look at my phone, it's like I've got all these missed messages, and they're all from this one person that's pretty much having like a one-sided rant conversation with me about all the stuff that they're upset about. And I've kind of told them, I'm like, I'm not going to read all this. And, you know, sometimes other people's stuff that they have to say stresses me out. So I'm just like, I just go offline for a while. And that's my way of saying, I've put you on block until I feel like reading your messages, and then I'll unblock it and respond to the last one that I saw, and you can respond while you're unblocked. But otherwise, once I get sick of it, I just block it, and I don't feel bad. I'm like, I've told them in as many ways as I can that, you know, if I don't respond, it's because I'm stressed out. If I don't respond, it's because I'm doing other stuff. And they still will send me like 14, 15 messages a day, just back to back. And I know it's probably the caffeine, and I get it because I can be the same way. But, you know, that's just how it is. But this isn't what I would say is like a toxic trait. It's a minor annoyance, right? It's like, all right, this is a little annoying. I know I can get a little annoying. I know other people can get a little annoying. So I'm like, it's a little annoying. And so I just leave it. I'm like, whatever. I found my way of dealing with it. And if they don't like my method of dealing with it, they could easily just stop doing it, right? Like, they know more than just me. But if they don't really understand that sometimes I really don't want to dive into their issues or hear about the kind of stuff that they have to say, because it's usually negative, um, I usually just ignore it. And it's always like the same kind of theme. And this person seems to easily be agitated with others and other situations. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't see what I get out of reading those messages sometimes, because I don't feel similarly. They feel differently about gender and about sexuality and about race and ethnicity and, finances and all these different things. They've kind of have this outlook on life that's from their perspective, and we have different perspectives on life in general, which is fine. But I don't believe in a lot of stuff that they believe in. Like, they really kind of, um, I don't know how to explain it, but I just don't believe similarly. And you don't have to believe the same thing as other people. You can have your own opinions, your own beliefs, and you can change those at any time, and that's perfectly fine. But yeah, that's the one thing that I'm kind of like, that I would caution too is, you don't have to be, um, you don't have to allow people to overwhelm you. Like if I tell certain people I'm only available at this time and then they want to keep calling me at other times, then I'm like, well, you must really not want to talk to me because I'm not available. I can't be talking at those times. And so that's just how it is, and, it for me, it helps to kind of keep stricter boundaries with certain people. Not with everybody, but with certain people. So it's like, okay, if I gotta go, I gotta go. If I've got stuff I'm doing and it's what was important for me that day, but someone else wants to postpone and do something 90 minutes later than they said they wanted to do it, I'm like, okay, well, I'll still be there, but I'm not going to be there at the time that you need. I'm going to be there at the time that we initially agreed on, so just because I'm going to have to leave early, like if I schedule lunch with a friend and we're gonna meet before the lunch rush. So if we're gonna meet at 11:30, and then all of a sudden, because I'm like I want to be done by 1:30, and then all of a sudden they want to meet at like just before 1, then it's like, well, I have till 1:30, so I will be leaving at 1:30. It's like I can be flexible maybe, but maybe I don't want to be flexible. Like I said what time I wanted to a lot, and we've been talking about this for a week. Why should I have to like change my mind? You know what I mean? So things like that. I don't feel bad, you know? And there's things that have taken a long time for me to kind of challenge. I've got certain family members that want me spending my money a certain way, want me traveling a lot, want me, spending a lot the way that they do. And I kind of grew up around certain adults where I was like, I saw how they were spending, and I was like, this is stressful. When you're a kid and you're relying on certain people in your family and they're telling you, oh, we don't have money, and I'm like, well, I can't go make money because I'm a little kid, so it's like, if they're telling you, we're in a bad money situation, or like some other family members, like they need to borrow money or else they're going to get their car taken away or whatever it is. And it's like, I would see people doing stuff like that. And I was like, but I would also see, oh, maybe they went and spent like a week at Disneyland and took another trip, to New York for Christmas and New Year's Eve, and they didn't really have to. And we're doing all these other things, and now they don't have any money. And so it's like, I could kind of see that. And I was like, that sounds stressful. I don't want that. So, as an older person now, I still see those people who are adults, but they're older and I'm older, but they're still older than me. And a lot of them haven't changed. They still have their issues with debts, their issues with, just buying stuff, um, their issues with not paying things the way they need to, and just choosing to use their money in other ways. And then now they want me, now that I'm older, to be traveling with them and doing all this other stuff. But they don't understand, why would I want to be responsible with my money? Why would I not want to spend my money doing things the way that they do them? And they we kind of butt heads over it, and they'll often bring it up like, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And I'm like, because I'm being responsible, and that's kind of my boundary. Like, I'm not going to let them pressure me into spending my money on stuff that they want me to do just because it's more important for them for me to spend my money to do what they want me to do than it is for them to see me, saving or paying off debt or paying down debt or, investing. They don't want to see or talk about that. They want to, see me spend my money and be irresponsible and then figure it out later. That's what they want, because they just want what they want. And I'm like, no, no more of this, no more of putting up with, what people need from me. I don't care what people need from me, like most people I know are independent enough that they should not be needing something from me. And at this point, I'm the last person people should be needing anything from. It's like I got access to 3 old half broken down cars. My work situation is like whatever I'm making of it right now. Mostly trying to do my own gig work, but and freelancing. But I am interested in working for a company, but I am kind of putting that not as a priority. I've still been, um, yeah, but like it's good to try to just take a look around. Like it's hard to see sometimes. Like it's not like really about like blaming and like saying like who's at fault, right? I think most of us who gravitate towards these books, it's like we can kind of already see, where things came from. Maybe not. Maybe we're not trained to do that, but we're interested in reflecting and doing what we need to do for things to change. Um, and sometimes, you know, one thing I had to realize that I'm glad I realized, um, was, you know, there's discomfort in keeping those negative things the same and never changing them, and there's discomfort in changing them. So sometimes it's like, which discomfort do you want more? Do you want the discomfort that comes with the change, or do you want the discomfort that comes with just not changing? And, you know, like people, like when it comes to boundaries with people, boundaries that work for you, and you have people in your life who aren't good with boundaries, it's not going to be easy. That's going to be uncomfortable. Because when you start setting boundaries with them, they want to argue, they want to debate, they want to try to push you over to believing what they believe, and they don't really want to hear you out. They want to try to discredit you, or, some people take it to extremes. And so it's like, that's uncomfortable. So when you start setting boundaries, those people, those same people who needed the boundaries that are making you uncomfortable, feeling like you're obligated to them to go out of your way to do stuff that they need you to do on their time in their way. And when you start saying no, then they start hassling you about it, even if it's just on the spot mild. But for me, I've had to walk away. I'm like, this is them having bad behavior and basically throwing a tantrum over not getting their way. And they're trying to do this to persuade me to go against my own boundaries that are best for myself. And I have called it out on the spot, and they don't want to hear it. They still say what they need to say to try to make me feel bad. And I just walked away. I was like, okay, this is inappropriate. But that's kind of how it is. It's like, that's not comfortable. That's not fun. I could just give in and be like, okay, if I give in, then at least we're not arguing about it. But then here I am with this other issue, like maybe if it's a money thing, now I'm stuck having to be broke and go against my own financial goals because I'm trying to appease this other person because they want me to like go, all over the world with them and stuff like that instead of saving for my own future. And so, there's things like that where, um, sometimes I can see where people are coming from, but also it's like, I think they also don't see the full picture, you know? And so, like sometimes that's just kind of how it's going to be. And, you know, um, like I don't mind it so much now. It's easier for me to do now. The more I do it, the easier it gets. And the more, I find myself less, um, less bogged down by their issues that they can't get under control. Um, so, like, I have certain friends that maybe I don't talk to them at certain hours of the evening because I know they always are drinking. And so I don't like talking to them when they're drinking because it's not a back and forth conversation. And so The friends I have like that, I'm like, call me before this time. And if they can't call me before that time because they only want to call me while they're drunk, then we're not talking, you know? Um, I mean, I have a lot of situations where it's like, the more I've done what's best for myself, I'm less and less bothered, you know? Um, and I'm kind of stubborn about it, but it's like, okay, now I'm not bothered by the person who always wants me to take lavish trips because they know I'm not going to do it, you know? And they might see me take another trip and be like, well, look, you did that one. I'm like, yeah, well, that one cost me $800, and what you wanted me to do is going to cost me $6,000. You know, it's like they don't really understand, you know. They try to like make it seem like it's something that it's not. And you know, they still constantly, a lot of these people don't change their own behaviors. They keep on doing whatever the heck isn't the best fit for me, but they'll keep on doing it. You know, the person who's, you know, rant texting is still rant texting me. The person who wants to call me while they're drunk at like 10 o'clock at night and I don't really want to talk, then they still call me, and I will ignore those texts from that annoying person. I will ignore the calls from that other drunk friend. You know, I just ignore it. I'm like, you already know what it is. I already told you. And I'm not being unreasonable. I'm not saying I don't want to talk or I don't want to text or I don't want to hang out or go on trips. I'm not saying I don't want to do these things, but just these few situations of not having someone who's like text bombing me all day, every day, not not having someone who's calling me drunk every night, and not having someone who's constantly wanting me to spend every last cent and go into debt to like make plans to go do all this crazy stuff with them. Just those three situations with three people, just me taking my own energy back from them has been pretty great, you know. Um, because those are, you know, to me, it's worth it more that I don't have to focus on the energy that they're trying to suck out of me. It's like, oh, you want to text me all day? Go on ahead. I'm not gonna respond. You know, like not rewarding people, you know, to do the bad things that they want to do. And I'm not saying it's like this person's like slapping me or punching me or, you know, yelling in my face and cussing me out. Like it's not like at that level. It's not like that, but it's like it doesn't have to be at that level. It can be simple little things. And if this is what I need for myself to kind of organize my own time in that way, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to bend over backwards. Um so I kind of noticed that, you know, I kind of had those um kind of things that I've had to change. It almost reminds me of, do you guys remember that show Super Nanny or Nanny 911? There were some shows like that that were popular with these British nannies that would come in, and all the time there would be like, you know, one kid who hits or throws things or throws tantrums, doesn't want to take bath time on time, doesn't want to eat their vegetables, doesn't want to do their chores, doesn't want to sleep, and kind of keeps calling the parents in to like sleep in their, and you know, to like, you know, you would see these households that were like in chaos with these parents that were like, we don't know what to do with this kid. They won't sleep in their own bed. They only want to sleep in my bed. And me and my spouse have a bed together. And now this kid is kind of up in our bed all the time, kind of coming between me and my partner. And, you know, um, maybe, 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 you know, you see those people, um, you know, they're coming up and, you know, like with the kids, like say you have a person with kids who's, um, you know, yeah, with that situation, sleeping in their parents' bed, you know, the nanny would say, pick the kid up, take them back to their crib, sit in the room, and every night you sit there and just keep taking him back to bed, take him back to bed. Don't give in, don't give in, and eventually the behavior that you've been rewarding all the time will stop because eventually that other, that child's going to realize, you're just going to keep putting me back in my crib, you know, they're going to have to learn to sleep there, because maybe if it's getting in the way of your marriage, then, like the adults need their time too without the children in their space. And so, um, you know, that's kind of how that goes. But I kind of say that like it's almost equivalent to when we're adults dealing with other adults. It's like sometimes, we can't reward the stuff that we don't like, because if you keep rewarding it and rewarding it and rewarding it, they're going to keep doing it. And maybe they will still keep doing it even if you don't reward it anymore. Sometimes they even kick it up a notch, but maybe they will keep doing it, but it's like at least the ball is in your court and you can decide if you're gonna, you know, tap into it or if you're just gonna avoid it. And so that's kind of how I've been seeing it, where it's like it's hard to do. Boundaries are hard to set, but it also keeps you from judging yourself because you're now doing what's best for you. The agreement, that you're not following the old agreement anymore of how you were taught of what you need to give into. Oh, I feel bad if I don't answer their texts. Oh, I feel bad and a little guilty if I don't answer their phone calls because they called me. I'm not saying this even happened, but like, they called me crying at like 10 o'clock at night and left this 3 long voicemails. They were at the maximum length about how they really want to talk and like, just trying to like get me to go against my boundaries. That didn't happen, but I'm just saying, like, people will do that kind of stuff. And they do it because they want what's best for them and they're not thinking about what's best for you. And when you've spelled it out, you know, you have a choice. Am I going to keep giving in because I keep feeling bad? Or am I going to do what I need for myself to start feeling better and get away from those old agreements of how I've told myself, oh, I need to give in to this person because I know they're lonely and I'm their only friend. I need to give in to this person because I know they're struggling with their drugs. I need to give in to this person because I know that, the way that they, that they, you know, um, uh, that they prefer quality time. And because they prefer quality time, they want me to spend all my money to go hang out and do stuff with them. You know, um, that's what they need. But it's like, well, what about what I need? When do I start giving to me what I need? And I've noticed, it has changed my energy. I've spent less time being angry or bitter or losing sleep at night about replaying, oh, like how annoying this person is being and how upset I was at reading those long texts about these negative messages that just get in my mind. And I'm like, man, now I've got all this like negative stuff in my head. Like, I was like, well, I'm not even having all that negative stuff in my head because I didn't even read it. I'm not even up late and stressed out about this crying drunk friend calling me on the phone and can't get off the phone because they can't understand that, hey, I gotta go to bed, and they don't understand that or play like they can't understand that because they're too drunk. It's like, no, that's not happening. That's not what's happening. I'm doing what I need for me, and they can just do what they want to keep doing. If they're not at a place to change those old agreements that they've made, that they've been set, that they've been told that, hey, I have to give in to this or else I will feel bad for that person. I'll feel bad like I'm not being a good friend. I mean, all these kind of situations I've mentioned, all these people, some people would just cut them off altogether, right? So I'm like, I'm not being mean when I'm like, hey, these are my limits. I'm trying to structure my own life around my own energy and find more energy where I can. Because I notice that with a lot of people. A lot of us are overwhelmed, especially if you work online, especially if you work online in any way. You're online all day. You're bombarded with like multitasking all day long, and then you have your phone that's on you all the time that's blowing up, and you're bombarded by all the stuff on your phone. I mean, there's no way to get away from it. Like, I notice when my anxiety starts going up, I need to put the phone away, put it in my gym bag, or put it somewhere else in another part of the room, and just don't touch it, turn it off or turn it down, like I'm not looking at it, I'm not touching it, it's over there, and I'm doing my own thing. And that's hard to do, but sometimes it needs to be done. And when you start feeling that anxiety about someone else or that pressure regarding someone else, sometimes it's like, just look at it. Look at where your energy is naturally. And usually, if your energy feels negative or low or heavy, usually there's a reason for that. It's usually going to be attached either to some practical thing like sleep, appetite, nutrition, exercise, vitamins, that kind of thing. It's going to be either something practical or it's going to be something emotional, or spiritual, or somewhere along those lines. Like, it's going to be something that is lacking. And so being able to point out what that is and see what the options are for yourself. Like, what are the options for changing it? What are the options for not changing it? What are the options for keeping it exactly the same? What are the things that I want to change? What are the things that I don't want to change? Can I still change things that I don't want to change and get better results? Because that's what I've had to do, change some things that I wasn't really quite wanting to change or willing to change. Like, I don't want to tell people that I find them annoying, and I try to be nice, but sometimes it's like, you can't be nice, and I'm kind of, I guess I've got a bad reputation for like saying it like it is, but I'm like, dude, at a certain point, when do I stop letting people inconvenience me? Like, there was a situation, and this is going to be the last thing I'll say, but there was a situation a long time ago, where me and some close friends, we all kind of were at at another group of close friends' house, and I don't know if we had meant to stay overnight there, but we all ended up staying overnight, like a whole group of us. And the next morning we were all going to be hungry and tired and hungover, and I was like, I just want to get up, shower, and go eat a whole lot of food with my friends because we're going to be like hungover. And you know I get up, I shower, uh, I'm ready to rock and roll. Another one of my friends wants to shower, and um, I was thinking, oh well, while I'm showering, she's gonna go get her stuff, and then when she comes back, she'll be ready, But no, she waited till I got out of the shower to go get her stuff from her car that was parked like maybe a block or so away. She had to go get her stuff, walk all the way back, and then she gets in the shower. Right when we could have left, like the rest of us were ready to go. They were waiting for me to take a shower, and then we were gonna go. And then this other friend, I thought, okay, at least if she's gonna take a shower, she'll probably do it right after me. But she didn't even start right after I got out. She was still like 10-15 minutes after. Then she wants to start taking a shower, and I'm just like, no, like, this is not how this is gonna be. Because the other friends, it was their house, and they were like, well, you guys can't just leave this other person here, because you can't leave this person here showering, because like they didn't really know that person. And so they're like, the rest of you who know this person, because all of us were ready to leave, they're like, you guys need to stay. And that's when I was like, well, well then, I was telling the other person who was going to take a shower, like, well, hurry up, like you have like 10, 15 minutes. I think I said 10 minutes, expecting they were going to take like 15. But I was like, I didn't feel bad saying that. I'm like, why should I feel bad? Like they already could have taken a shower within that 10 or 15 minutes after I had been out of the shower. But they waited and decided to go start getting their stuff at that time. And then they waited, and I'm like, you already knew that we were trying to leave because I already mentioned how hungry I was, and I already mentioned how tired and hungover, and we all were mentioning this. And I felt like that person was not only inconveniencing me, but inconveniencing the people whose house it was, inconveniencing the rest of the group of friends who all wanted to leave. But I was the only one who said anything, and I know it came out rude, but I was like, I don't feel bad about it. It's like if somebody's gonna go out of their way to inconvenience me, sometimes, not always, but sometimes I feel like it's fine to say something. Maybe the tone could be different or nicer, but at the same time, it's like sometimes you have to be stern with people because these are the same people that everybody will be complaining and bitching and moaning about. Everybody will get in a group, and I'm not saying this happens, like, but I'm just saying usually those types of people have a reputation where everybody's like, oh, they're always making me run like an hour late, 30, 40 minutes late. This person is really bad with time. Like, whenever I come pick them up, they're never ready. And then there's somebody like me that's going to be like, I will wait 2 minutes. And if I haven't heard from you or if you don't give me an ETA, I'm leaving. And I've done that to people before because I'm like, there's no reason you shouldn't be ready. Like, I used to have a friend that I would pick up that I lived maybe 10 to 15 minutes from them. So I would tell them I'm, I'm leaving, thinking they have 10 to 15 minutes to get ready. And I mean, like, you could pretty much take a quick shower and get pretty much prepared in 10 or 15 minutes. And let's say they weren't even ready. By the time I get there, if I'm waiting 5 minutes, and I would stay in the car, I stopped going into the house because if I would go in the house, it would take even longer. So I would stay in the car. And, usually I would get there, they would take more than 5 minutes, meaning that from the time I left my house, they had 15 to 20 extra minutes to be getting ready. I don't know that many people that can't just like quickly, even if you're taking a shower, jump in the shower, put on your clothes, let's go. Like, you should be ready within 20 minutes. That's like, if you're rushing and you're really, really rushing that bad, you should be able to get ready in 20 minutes. Like, maybe you're not going to cook and eat breakfast. Maybe you're not going to like put on all your makeup and like blow dry your hair and do all the fancy stuff. But it's like, you should be able to do like a quick, like, in and out shower and, be ready. So why is it that a person like that, feels like it's okay? Because everyone I knew who ever would give this person rides would say, yeah, I'm always late. I'm waiting 30 minutes, 40 minutes, waiting 30, 40 minutes for a person when you already told them you're on your way and you're going to be there in 10 or 15 minutes and you still have to wait an extra 30, 40 minutes. And this is more than once a week, every week for years. I mean, you eventually have to say something, right? I mean, that's why for me, I'm like, if it's a person who tends to have a pattern and they're not just bothering me and it's bothering other people too, I have no problem just pointing it out and being like, look, this is an inconvenience for me. If I'm taking you to school because we live at the if we go to the same school and you're making me late for class, or you're making me late for work, or you're making me late for church, or you're making me late for stuff, um on occasion, maybe, but if it's every single day, that's not going to be okay at all. You cannot be making me late every single day. It's not okay. So I just I never liked that. I never thought it was okay. I never thought it was appropriate. But yeah, there were definitely people who would want, you know, to be doing those things, and let it keep going on. And then there are going to be a whole other group of people that are going to be like, well, I feel bad telling that person how I actually feel. And I'm like, well, yeah, I feel bad too. I'm not like pleased to have to be like feeling that way, but I'm also, I feel like I didn't want to wake up 30 minutes early to have to take this person places while they're still sleeping in. I didn't want to have to get ready. Like, I think sometimes who people who get rides a lot of times might not understand this other person had to go out of their way to leave early to come get you, and you're not even ready. You got to rest or watch that extra movie or sleep in or do whatever that extra thing was. You should be ready, you should be ready when someone comes to pick you up. And if you're not, at least say so and at least say how long it's going to take. And, I feel like 5 minutes is maybe the max somebody should be waiting in their car for a person. Like maybe you get your wires crossed, but 5 minutes to me is like max. So when I started telling this person 2 minutes, and there were times when I left them, there were times when I was like, look, I gotta be somewhere in like 10 minutes, and if I don't leave now, I'm gonna be late. And mind you, I'm talking LA traffic, so it's like you can't be dealing with stuff like that, and there are plenty of people who will expect everybody to be putting up with their lateness and giving them rides everywhere and going out of their way about it, and they never apologize. They're not paying for your gas. They don't feel bad about it. Or maybe they do feel bad about it. They just don't get the problem fixed. And for me, it's like I've dealt with so many people like that I'm like, I don't want to be inconvenienced. And so it's either no, I can't pick you up, or sorry, I'm going to be in a rush, or, you got to be ready on time or else I'm going to leave you. Why am I the bad guy if the other person's going to be making me late and isn't going to be ready, right? So that's kind of how I see it. I'm like, why am I the bad guy? I'm not the bad guy. The other person's the bad guy for never being on time and for all the other people that they're inconveniencing. If it's not me, it's going to be somebody else that they're inconveniencing. And it's not even by 5 minutes, not even by 10 minutes. I'm talking 30, 40 minutes. Like, you know, the amount of time it takes you to drive a good length of LA, that person wouldn't even be ready yet. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know? Like, I've been in their house before when they were trying to be ready, and I would look at them and be like, well, you're ready, you're showered, you've eaten, you have all your stuff by the door, so why are we not leaving yet? Like, and it was all the time. It was all the time, like literally all the time. And um, I had to do something. I had to do and say something about it. Otherwise, it wouldn't ever change. And so I don't really even know. Um, I don't really even know. I don't know what else I can really say about it, but it's like, you know, that's kind of how I see it. And a lot of people might not um, agree. A lot of people might be like, well, you need to always bend for those people. And it's like, yeah, maybe a little bit at first, but after a while, somebody has to get it together, you know. That's just how it has to be. And I don't try to be like a jerk, but it's like, for me, it's like certain stuff is important, Like, it's one thing if it's not something important, but it's like, if I'm on a timely kind of thing, like, got to be at class on time, got to be at a meeting on time, got to be across town on time, got to be at a birthday on time, got to be at a wedding on time, you know, um, got to be at the gym on time. Maybe I took some C4 and I'm like, I know it's going to kick in on this at this time, and this person wants to come to the gym with me, so I'm not going to wait 40 extra minutes, because like the peak would have already passed of my pre-workout kicking in, and it's like now it's messing up my workout schedule because I'm waiting for this person. And it's like stuff like that, like, why should I be the one who constantly has to be inconvenienced because of other people's nonsense? And I'm not even saying we can't be friends. I'm just saying if you want a ride from me, if you want a convenient ride from me, you have to be on time. If you want a convenient, conversation with me on the phone, it needs to be at a certain time. If you want my attention and my energy, you can't be coming all drunk and where I'm just like, what am I getting out of this? If I'm spending 2 hours with you on the phone and you're drunk off your ass and can't even remember anything that I said and talking over me and not even listening to anything I'm saying, it's like, what am I getting out of this? You know what I mean? Um, and I'm totally capable of being selfless. I've been selfless, but I've played that game, for a very long time. And I hit a point where, I was like around 2020, that's when I was like, I'm going to start being more selfish. I'm going to start doing more of what I need for me. And it's taken 3 years up to this time to finally start feeling like I kind of know more what I need for myself. I don't need crazy ass roommates. I don't need to be like overly interactive with my family. I don't need to be sharing with them every single detail of what I do. I don't need to be, I don't need people keeping tabs on me and knowing where I'm at all the time. I don't need people knowing every place that I attend and who I'm with. You know, I don't need people calling me late at night when I'm already trying to sleep if they don't really need anything. And even if they do need something, what do they need from me? Like, I can't do anything. I don't have money to help you. I don't have anything that can really actually help somebody. So why should I be, you know, giving my energy to people if I can't? I don't have energy to give. Like, I need my energy for myself. There have been days where earlier, if I look at earlier this year in 2023, there were days where it would take almost everything to cook a healthy meal. And now I'm regularly cooking healthy meals. It would take almost everything to cook, to get up and go to the gym. And now I'm able to kind of do that. It would take almost everything, you know, for me to do certain things. And like, it would take all my energy. And so why should I have to take all my little bit of energy for other people when I hardly have it? Um, and so that's kind of how I see it. That's how I've been viewing it. And the more I kind of try to tweak my schedules and my activities according to my own needs, um, it's been working out really well. And I've been kind of in this process of deconstructing these old agreements and putting up more boundaries and just slowly over the years just being like, well, this person, I don't really need to actually talk to them anymore. Like, we don't have business. Like, the old guy that I used to rent a room from, where I lived in the house with all those crazy ass people. Like, I don't need to keep in touch with him. Like, yeah, I feel bad because he was a lonely old man, but I'm like, I don't need to keep in touch with him because he's annoying. I don't have to take his phone calls. He went past so many of my boundaries so much of the time, like having long conversations when I didn't want to the point where I got off the phone by my phone dying, my phone battery dying. He would, you know, talk to me when I didn't want to talk to him. He'd start conversations, come knocking on my door, and just hold me at the door, kind of having these long conversations about stuff that I don't want to talk about. He would, you know, I remember once, it was kind of one of the last straws for me when he was telling me, like, you need to, like, he would kind of just like come to my door so he could like peek in the door, and he would be like, you need to clean your room and like clean off the fan. And I'm just like, don't tell me what to do. Like, you need to get your shit together. Like, the reason why I don't have time to clean or energy to clean is because I'm losing sleep living with all these crazy ass people who are waking me up at all hours of the night. Like, I don't have energy to be cleaning my room. Like, what difference does it make? You don't sleep in my room. He didn't clean the house either. I'm like, get the bugs out of our house, you know, like get the rats out of our house, you know, quiet down some of these housemates. Like that's your job, you know. Don't tell me how I need to put my room together, like, you know. And to me, it was just like overstepping. I'm like, don't tell me what to do, you know. But you know, and he would call. I would tell him to text, and he would call and call and call, and I would just tell him to text me. And I'm like, once I get on the phone, he's gonna keep me on the phone. Um, and so yeah, I was kind of over all that, and I was like, once I moved, I was like, why am I still taking this guy's calls? Like he owed me like a little bit back for my deposit. Let's call it $300. I don't know how much it was, but let's call it 300 to 300. Um, I don't know how much it was exactly, but that's what we're gonna call it. And um, yeah, he owed me some money back. And I was like, you know, it's not worth keeping in touch with this guy for $200 or $300. So I just told him, you know, my last message to him was, you know what? If you want to pay me back, you know how to get in touch with me. You have my address. Just mail me a check if you don't want to pay me back, because it seems like it's too hard for you to do it even in installments of like $25 or whatever. If you don't want to do it, that's going to be up to you. And, you know, goodbye kind of thing. And I just, you know, blocked this number. So I was like, now I don't have any ties with him or anybody else who lived in that house that I don't want to have ties with. And so, yeah, I just left it alone. And I don't really need more um, interactions, you know, because, you know, it was keeping that kind of annoying relationship going, because whenever he would call, he would be, oh, it's about the money kind of thing. And then it wouldn't be. It would be about him venting about one of the other housemates or something. And I'm like, bro, you're the one who wouldn't get rid of these annoying ass people. You're the one who's in charge of who lives in this house. So why are you calling me venting that all these people are annoying? Like, I know, that's why I moved, you know? So it would be stuff like that that I was like, you know, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Um, as people are getting more and more chaotic and more, you know, uh, having more and more issues, I'm noticing more and more people in my life having more and more issues, and I'm not gonna take on their issues, you know. Like, I don't work in mental health right now. Um, Not for pay, anyways. I'll do volunteer stuff, but I don't do it for pay. So if I'm not getting paid to do it, um, then I'm not gonna do it, and that's just how it is, you know. Um, and that's just kind of how it has to be, and it's unfortunate, you know. But the alternative option is let these people bulldoze me, and then another alternative option is cut all the people off whenever they annoy me. So I try not to just be cutting people off like that. I mean, he's the one person I've probably, well, him and the other two people who lived in the house, they're probably the only people I've cut off um, for a really long time. There was someone else there was a point where I was considering who I was going to cut off. Because I was like, there's some people I'm just going to have to, like, you know, cut some people off. And so, you know, there weren't a lot of people that I cut off, but the ones that I did, I'm like, oh, they gotta go. Like, what's in this for me? You know, like, if it's not like a mutual kind of like back and forth, you know. And sometimes, you know, I'll need things from people, and sometimes people will need things from me. That's fine. But I'm talking about the people who always need. You know, those are the people that I'm more like, okay, like, what is this person actually giving in return? You know, they're not giving anything but problems. And so those are the people that I've mostly taken more interest in cutting cutting off from, or limiting my energy with. But yeah, that for me, you know, it's still a starting point. I feel like I'm still at the beginning of it, but I've definitely been feeling so much better since I've been able to kind of do things in a way that's more aligned with what I prefer versus what other people need from me. Like, I'm not a parent, I don't have pets, and so there should be nobody who needs anything from me. Um, and that's kind of how it was feeling. It was feeling like I had like 8 different people who all had their own issues that knew because I worked in mental health, they could have their problems around me and I would be understanding. And it's like, yeah, I'm understanding, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to let your problems interfere with my life. I understand what your problems might be and I try to be flexible with it, but there's a point where I have to be kind of rigid with what I need. And, I'm not going to be letting people make me sway over different stuff just to kind of bend towards what they want. Um, but I don't know. I think, it's up to each person kind of what it is that they want to do. And um, it's not easy. I mean, I'm not saying I have all the answers. That might not be the right way fully to um, deal with these kinds of problems, but um, yeah. So I don't know, but well, with that, thanks for listening.